AI is here. It's not coming, it's already taken over. And if you're not using it, someone else is. The question isn't, should businesses adopt AI? The question is, will the ones that don't survive? Today I'm sitting down with Bert Carder, Senior Advisor at Growthink, to break down whether AI is the greatest opportunity of our lifetime or the fastest way to kill your business. Let's get into it. Bert, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim. Nice to have you.
Very excited to talk about AI. I know you and I have both been having a lot of conversations with clients and prospective clients that are just asking the big questions of, I know we need it, but how do I get into this? Or they're having other conversations because they're getting prospected by a myriad of service providers that everybody claims to be an AI expert. And granted, there are AI experts out there, but it's still pretty new territory. So what I thought we would do here is obviously talk a little bit about what we're hearing as two seasoned management consultants that deal with executives on a day-to-day basis. With the audience, we could just share what we're hearing and how we're helping people through that. And then I was also hoping we could look at some of the landmines that we can help people stay off of. And then towards the end, maybe talk a little bit about some of our firm recommendations and our process and approach, and maybe even some tools that we're using ourselves.
Sounds good.
Cool. So to kick this thing off, I want to kind of start it with one question, which is what do people typically get wrong, or what questions are they not asking that they should be asking when they start looking at AI for their business?
Typically, people hear about a solution and then they try to figure out how to use that. Like it's almost backwards versus, which is fine, which is normal. They're just discovering kind of the field versus kind of the reverse, which is where is the issue or the area of opportunity in our business that I should be addressing or could be addressing or would have the biggest ROI, and how do I tackle that? Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm finding is that people are trying to apply solutions that maybe they heard about from a colleague at another company who has different challenges, maybe in a different sector, and they're going, well, they did it, and I should probably do the same thing.
Right.
And I think that can be dangerous, it can be expensive, and you might not be able to get the ROI that you're wanting to get.
Yeah, that's a good point about seeing what's working in one industry and hoping that it would apply to your industry.
Yes.
I know, like, if we segment and silo out various functions of business, naturally everybody looks to ChatGPT and social media and content because it's easy, right? You just put in some keywords and it spins up some articles, and then they say, we're done. That's not really a strategy, by the way. It's a support with execution. But then we kind of move into things like hiring and writing job reviews and the HR, and then we get into the more complicated pieces like data and systems and infrastructure. And before this whole AI thing happened, I mean, it's been happening for a long time, so let me just pump the brakes here. Before ChatGPT really became, so hot as hot as it is now, people were still dealing with problems, right? Because the nature of dealing with business is always looking for new solutions. And before AI, it was automation, and maybe it was your CRM tool, or it's always another problem, right? So what should the business owners be cautious about? Is this a shiny tool, or is it something that's here to stay, and if you don't jump on board, that you're going to be left behind?
I definitely think you need to jump on board because this isn't going anywhere. It's only going to get better and sharper. So I think if you're not truly asking yourself that question and really looking at it and testing out and delving into it right now, likely you are getting left behind by one of your competitors or a group of them that are testing at a low level, which is what I would recommend is get a project that you can get your hands around and go test and look at, okay, we typically spend 20 hours of man hours to do this task. If we were to add some AI or some automation or something like that to a repetitive task, could we cut it down to an hour or 20 minutes or two or whatever? And what would that be after a long period of time? I think that's really the way to start. The way to start is to take a small project that is quantifiable and apply, again, using, it could be existing kind of open source platform, and you get a little bit of a customization, or you add a prompt there and go, can this enhance or amplify or make a repetitive task more efficient? And that's what they're doing, with content, and that's what they're doing with some of these other very kind of top of the funnel solutions, which is how do I make that faster?
Yeah. What is the number one question that you get asked as it relates to AI right now?
It's, well, it's what am I supposed to be doing? This is my problem. This is my situation. What am I supposed to be doing? I've heard of ChatGPT. I use it, or I'm using Perplexity, or I'm using this language, not really language model. They're not having those conversations, but they've heard about them, and so they're getting scared that they're not adopting this quickly. And I understand. I mean, it is moving fast, so it would be easy to kind of get behind. So it's really, what am I supposed to be doing? And that's the question that we're trying to answer for businesses and customers that we're talking with, which is, let's go through a process to understand where your pain points are and where you should start in relationship to not just what's available to you or your budget, but really also what's the kind of the technology savviness or adaptiveness of your team, because those are a component as well. Right? We've all heard about onboarding new technology or solutions or this, and if you don't have a team, if you have a team that's very far in the left and you're trying to adopt something, that can be failure too. So they have to understand, and typically that's an education process, right? To kind of go, listen, we want to make you, right? Everyone's afraid. A lot of employees are getting afraid. Is my job going to be here? And I think the first ways to add AI or automation or any of these kind of new tools and opportunities is to amplify your existing employees there, to be able to do more, to do better, to make less mistakes. And if you're talking to an employee like that and you're going, listen, we want to add something that's going to make you better, maybe even take a little bit of weight off of your daily tasks and allow you to make less mistakes, provide better solutions, they're going to embrace it.
Yeah.
And that's really what you want, especially for that first implementation, that you're trying.
Yeah, business owners are smart cookies. They know their problems. They know what they're going to constantly wrestle with, and there's not infinite varieties of problems at the business owners. There's financial problems, there's human problems, there's product and timeline. More or less, we have a good base, a good foundation. So when they're assessing how to use this and where do I get started, I always say, well, what's the number one thing? What's the thing keeping you up at night? Right? And if we can maybe put some systems or take a deep dive. I love this whole idea about doing a project because it's safe and we can test it.
I like to have a conversation when someone asks me. I say, listen, let me ask you a question first, okay? Think about your company right now. Think about the different departments of your company, right? You have the sales team, you have the customer service team, you have whatever the delivery is, you have operations. Which of those is the one that you're struggling with the most right now? Maybe you're frustrated because they're not working as quickly as you want or as efficiently as you want, or et cetera. Which one of those areas? And I just have them select an area of their business, because that's usually, they can usually name that, right, pretty quickly. That's the area. And I go, great. Tell me what makes you say that area in terms of the number one department that you're struggling with or you would like to optimize or whatever. And then they delve in a little bit deeper. And I'm like, what would it look like if that was fixed? Like in an ideal world, or maybe in a 50% ideal world, what would that look like there? And I have them kind of sit a little bit with, wow, we're spending too much time, or I can't hire to fill that job we've been trying, or, well, what would it look like? And the minute they can kind of get into, they've identified an area and maybe identified a problem, and then thirdly identified what would it like for it to be working, I feel like if you can answer those three things, you're now getting close to going, oh, okay, well then that makes sense. Let's figure out what would be the quantifiable ROI and put together some sort of scope to try to address that. I mean, if it's reasonable, obviously, if they're doing something that's huge for the one, I will obviously try to tamp that down and say, let's start with something a little bit more manageable. Do you have access to the data? Do you have, what are you trying to achieve? Is usually how I like to start the conversation, because it's not technical. It's really, like you said, it's really talking to a business owner that likely was up last night or last week or this whole week struggling with some area of their business. And
It's
it's
like
like,
there's
why don't we talk about that?
a qualitative ROI in there as well, which is like the
Well,
true
there's the
cost
human factor, right? So
factor.
it has to start with what do they feel is the right area. Now that might not be the right area, but if you say why do you feel that way, and they start to now move from kind of that emotional to logical, and they start quantifying and kind of
Hmm.
outlining an area and even visualizing what would be the success of it. I think we've taken that emotion now where we're moving it into some area where let's spend a little bit of time right there. Who would need to be involved? Who has the most input in that? Solving that, or who's struggling with that we could interview and go, where are you actually? And let's reinforce you're seeing a problem or a challenge over here. Let's talk to the people that are involved with it, and then go, is there a solution there? Even a simple solution to automate, even maybe a component
Hmm.
of what that person's doing, and that person might be doing one thing, and of the 20 hours that they spend doing that task, they spend 10 hours doing one part of it.
Right.
And you're like, so you're saying if we could help you with that, it would cut the time in half.
So what?
And then the owner is able to look at that, or the department head, that one task.
Yeah.
To me, that's the way to
That's that
approach this.
small win, that small project. It's not scary. It's kind of
Well, it's small, but it can be really scalable, and
yeah.
it's very quantifiable ROI on if I can do that, and how many times could you save 10 hours, and we could take the 10 hours and turn it to an hour or 10 minutes. Oh, I do that, 20 times a week. Oh, okay. So now we have 200 hours, right? That we're going to, whatever that is, and you start to really look at it, and how much does your salary cost, and
Well,
oh, okay, that's a number.
that's kind of the promise of what I think the promise of AI and the future of automation and things of this nature that we're talking about is, it costs, there's a lot of downtime, and there's a lot of things that are kind of hidden through the cracks of managing
Yes.
large teams, as especially in a remote work environment. A lot of people going back to the office. There's still plenty of people working from home on their laptops and pajamas, and we don't really know if they're working. So the promise is, well, this is going to sound harsh. If I don't need you and I can be more effective than you are,
Yeah.
then let me be more effective and not have the burden of the overhead, aka your
Right.
paycheck. And that's just where we're headed in some regard. Now, your
Yeah.
whole idea of like, let's make that person more efficient, that kind of goes down from managerial. Let's just actually look what they're doing,
Yeah.
actually looking at what's on their calendar.
I think most companies that are starting out and trying to do it, they should be looking at a way to enhance someone's ability versus replace. I
Yeah.
mean, pure automation at this point that doesn't have an individual looking over it is a far reach for people trying to take their first step.
Agreed. Agreed.
The budget, the time to quantify that. So going, how do I amplify my current staff? Maybe it's you have a staff of 3 and it's typically 5, and you're like, wow, how can I have these 3 people do the work of 5? Where are they spending all their time? And if we were to free that up, so it's
Yeah.
and again, then they're going to appreciate that you're basically giving them the tools or giving them the support to work that way, and you're going to basically optimize or make your business more efficient. So it's not, oh, we're going to try to eliminate, or at least
Right.
as a first part. I think it's the evolution of it all. I just read an article that said, I think it was the next 5 years, 40% of the skills that most workers have right now are going to need to be
Big
evolved
number. That's a big number.
to either apply
Mhm.
AI, to apply new knowledge, or they're going to become obsolete. So I mean, imagine if you're sitting there and going, wow, in the next 5 years, 40% of my value to an enterprise is going to disappear.
Well,
And I
and
mean,
that leads,
upskill or whatever,
that leads
right?
to a question that I like to ask, which is, in 5 years and then 10 years, will you
Yes.
have more humans in the organization doing the same thing? Or will you have less humans in the organization doing it? And it's different for everybody, right? If you're in construction,
Yeah.
maybe you can't use AI, but if you're, let's say, you're a publicist or like,
Well,
there's so many
wouldn't it be
examples.
great if you could get humans to do the things that humans do the best, right? So if you're in customer service, shouldn't you be talking to people, getting feedback, doing these things, which usually become the last thing that you do after you're doing all of these other things that you are not doing well necessarily. You're doing them horribly. You're doing them horribly slow, right? So freeing up people to do the things that people do best, I think ultimately, it doesn't mean that. I mean, obviously people are going to need to retrain, and there's definitely going to be roles that really disappear because they were repetitive, they weren't adding a lot of value. But I think for any employee listening to this, they should be thinking about, how can I upskill? Because if I'm doing something that is truly just about taking this data and moving it over here, or doing something very, very simplistic, likely that is going to be obsolete in the next 4 or 5 years. So what are you going to do now that's going to add a different thing to the company, or operate differently? So to me, that's kind of the challenge that we're going through. It's scary, and it's exciting, because the reality is most people you talk to in many industries, the people are burnt out. They're trying to manage an overwhelming amount of information to become quicker, better, faster than their brains can even allow them to, right? And you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I just got 500 emails today. I'm supposed to digest these emails and understand what to do and respond to everyone, right? Like, how often, Tim, are you getting these emails like, wow, I lost that email in my inbox, or these kinds of things, because you're like, okay, this is not sustainable, and everyone's burnt out trying to be a computer.
Sure.
Versus going, how do I have a computer be a computer and process, right? And how do I be a human working in sync,
right,
with with a computer? And I just was talking to someone about that today, where I was like, a computer can sift through so much data, right, and generate insights by horizontally being able to look at things that might take you forever or never to be able to process. And right now, right, with ChatGPT or with one of these other models, you go, can you give me 10 ways to do this, or 50 ways to do that? And a few minutes later, or 5 minutes later, you have those, and those would have taken you 5 years to do. And then you can go, well, let me think about those insights that were generated, and think about my experience, and go, let me pull the top 3 of those. Now you've used AI, or have used automation to help augment your ability to focus and immediately be thinking about the top 3 or top 5, and going, how do we implement those?
Yeah. So what do you say to the company owner that says, I know I need it, I'm not prepared to invest, I'm not ready to invest, I want to see others go first and see it work before I'm prepared to make an investment? What do you say to them?
Good luck. I don't think you can honestly be in business right now and put your head in the sand around this. I don't think you're going to survive. Or 80% of you you're probably not going to survive if you put your head in the sand for too long.
Yeah.
So I think it's if you're in business, you've decided that you're going to embrace or react or respond to the environment, and this is the environment. This is happening, just like the internet, just like these other revolutions happen. This is just happening, and it's happening faster than before. So you can't.
Yeah.
I remember initially, right, when people were putting up websites, 20 years ago or whatever, and some people, you'd be like, "Well, you don't have a website," and they're like, "I don't really need that. I talk to people on the phone." This is going to happen instead of, over 5 years, it's going to happen, 10, 20, 100 times faster.
Yeah. So let's talk about how we as consultants, non-technical engineers, approach the conversation versus an engineer, and kind of the difference in flavor, because they're both going to come at it from different places. We're getting calls all day long from people saying, it's time for us to optimize our business using this tool. How can you help us? At the same exact time, a lot of our partners and engineers out there are getting those phone calls saying, we can help you.
Yeah.
Right? So what is the difference between talking to, let's say, a consulting firm versus a straight engineering development shop?
They have products and knowledge, and they're going to try to convince you to use that, right? Where what you and I are doing, or should be doing, is being what I like to say the AI Sherpa, right? You're basically going to say, let's stop for a second and really identify and clarify what you should be doing. So before you decide to do anything, you're really clear what you should be doing, why you should be doing it, and the potential ROI. And that's pretty much what I'm spending my time doing. I don't profess to be a software engineer. I'm knowledgeable enough to go, let me help scope and make it easier for an engineering team to understand that the problem they're solving is going to actually deliver value, instead of trying to solve a problem that maybe they shouldn't be solving because it's easy for them to solve. And then the customer kind of going, wow, that didn't really deliver what I thought it would deliver. And then they have a sour taste, and then you're sitting there. So I think that we can be that front end that we can kind of bolt on to the front end of an engineer that's working deeply with language models, with AI, with even their closed source learning models or open source, and they've got a skill, and we can go, let's scope the problem first, and determine the ROI, and then go find the right solution that would deliver, and we can guarantee or almost guarantee there's going to be really great results and feedback, and then make another convert of that company. And then the company's saying, what else can I do? I love what you did. You had really understood that problem. You understood how you could solve it, why we should solve that first, and went and solved it. And now they're converting. They're looking for other ways to add.
I would add that there's probably some benefit to speaking with someone like yourself, who's a multiple time business owner, multiple time manager of people. You're a smart cookie. You know business very well. You're going to see, you have the CEO advisory bit in your back pocket. You're hearing different conversations than the engineer might be hearing. Also, at a much larger organization, the engineers may be dealing directly with the director of what their department may be. You have the ear of often the C-suite, the CEO in many cases. That's hearing problems from a different lens, from a more holistic view, versus just saying we're going to kind of silo out and solve this one tech issue.
We get to be the bridge. That's the exciting part. Is I'm not trying to be a software engineer. I'm trying to figure out, are we solving the right problem? Right? Most importantly, are we solving the right problem? What's the potential ROI? Let's clarify it. Let's make sure it's not emotional and reactive, but it's actually based on data, findings, some interviews. Is this real? Now, that's exciting. We've identified something in the potential, and we have a solution. We have ways to solve it. So it's exciting. As you said, I've been in business and many times, and worked as a COO and seen these things, these repetitive challenges that business have had. So it's exciting to be able to have new solutions to be able to bring to them versus, let's put together, a new job description and try to hire more people and get them to work faster, whatever. Versus, it's exciting for me to be able to now offer new solutions once we've identified an actual problem, a real problem, and can understand the ROI. So it's exciting to be where we are.
From now, let's call it over the next 5 years, what are you the most excited to see? What's your big hope, your big prediction, the thing that you think you're going to see unfold over the coming 5 years?
Well, I'm a strange bird. So what I would say is, what I see so many people burnt out and stressed out. Mm-hmm. And now that we've got fear just driving, right, with AI, and what am I going to do, and I'm going to lose my job, and how that's all going to work. And when I look ahead, what I envision, like I was talking about earlier, using AI and automation to do things really that humans shouldn't be doing, and freeing up humans and employees to do the things that really are value added, looking out there and seeing a workforce with smiles, doing what they love to do, seeing organizations which are more profitable and more efficient, with staffs that are happier and more satisfied. And the company can go, not a problem if you need to take that time to take your kid to whatever. It's not, oh my God, what are we going to do? But that we actually have the ability to run businesses with people, augment it with AI and technology, and look around and go, this is actually a better solution than what we were trying to do right now. And everyone is stressed out, exhausted, tired, can't keep up, and wondering if I'm going to lose my job. That's what I hope for. That's what I look forward for. I don't see, that's the vision that drives me.
That's a beautiful vision, Bert.
Thank
I would
you.
love to. I will share in your sentiment because I do believe that
Yeah.
the hope is that we can get rid of all the low-level tasks. We can take our human brains, our hearts, our consciousness, our vision,
Yeah.
and work together in more community. Make the world a better place because we are always needing to make the world a more beautiful place. And we can use our time, efforts, and energy towards that end if we're not bogged down by the mundane, small, tiny tasks that really AI can just
Yeah.
handle for us. So if somebody wants to start getting into this conversation and they're hearing this podcast, if you're out there, like, comment, subscribe, call Bert. But if somebody wants to get into this, like, what do you recommend as a first step? How does someone contact you? What does working with you through this process really look like?
Yeah, for me, it's very low key. It's email me and say, listen, I'd like to have an AI consultation, right? My email is bert.carder@growthink.com. And we'll schedule some time to learn about your business. And I'll basically walk you through a series of questions to help you identify, at least initially, the areas that we should probe a little bit more. And that's really the start. It's what do you think? You're there, And so I take you through kind of this exercise of identifying your company's unique needs, right? That's kind of step one. Then step two is let's drill down, look at what could be done, what's the possible outcome of that. Then we're understanding what's the ROI. So we start with that end in mind, what's possible, what would be the cost, and then we look at, great, what are our options for implementing it? But it's really starting with your unique company needs. It's got to start there, and that's how I approach it, which is, hey, let's talk for a little bit. We'll see by the end of it. We want to talk more. We're learning more. We're uncovering opportunities. You're more excited at the end of the call. If you're not more excited, we probably shouldn't be talking more. But likely you're going to be more excited, and you're going to want to lean in a little bit more and learn more, because it's just about learning how to bridge, as you said, this new technology, this new opportunity, and your business. How do you apply those two and end up with a more profitable business, a more successful business, employees that are happier, you're more profitable, et cetera, et cetera. That's the goal.
Yeah. Okay. As we wrap this up, what tool
Yes.
would you like to share with everyone that has got you jazzed?
I use a lot of Perplexity right now because I do a lot of research and I'm trying to get just insights and data. So I like Perplexity research because it helps me quickly just learn and understand things very quickly, and then I get to stew on them and grab a cup of coffee and go, versus sit in front of my computer trying to number crunch or data crunch. I can sit there and go, wow, let me stew on these ideas, or let me sleep on these ideas. So it allows me to use that tool or use that solution and then make me a better consultant, a better AI Sherpa.
I love it. I love it. Bert, thank you so much for the time. Thanks for joining. We'll put your contact information below. If you're new to this, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me. Take care.